How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? This is Indeed Gaming here. I am, in fact, Mr. Indeed, and welcome to my channel. Please do like, share, and comment on this video, and we're going to get right into it. Now, this video is going to be analyzing the combat, kind of going through the things about it that I do like and the things that I don't like. Unfortunately, like I said in my review, the combat is what I think drags the game down the most, so there is a decent amount about the combat that I do not like. I want everyone to keep in mind that I am playing on hard, and I may or may not have the most optimal build or whatever people want to call. I'm not a build person. I don't really care about stuff like that. But for the most part, the majority of the things that I talk about are just core game mechanics. So not really based on what my build is or something like that. Stats have nothing to do with it. Anyway, so the first thing that I take issue with in the combat system is not only just the lack of the counter system, but the lack of flushing out the dodging system, in my opinion anyway. And what I mean by the lack of flushing it out is that visually, I feel like they didn't flesh it out the way that they should have, and then mechanically, I feel like they also didn't either. So, the thing is that when you fight certain enemies, they have certain attacks that you can perfect dodge, and they have certain attacks that you can't perfect dodge. When you're dealing with the attacks that you can't perfect dodge versus you can, you get taken out of the combat. Because I can't perfect dodge your attack, which means that I have to stop whatever I'm doing, and I can't instantly get back into my fight. So I need to dodge away, I need to roll away, I need to slide away. Another thing, this is a bit of a nitpicky thing, but I don't like that when I dodge, my character basically completely looks away from the enemy. It's almost like they're not fighting them anymore, they're running away. It's kind of a nitpicky thing, but it's something that actually really bothers me. I don't like that my character just completely stops paying attention to the person they're fighting and just rolls away. I'm not a fan. In my opinion, if you're going to base your player's defensive options off of dodging, then your character should have different dodge animations. Now, obviously there are different dodge animations, but I mean different than the ones that they gave you, to be clear. So a lot of games, what they'll do is that if your character is only, like if you only press dodge once, your character will do kind of like a sidestep or something like that. And then if you double tap it, then your character will roll. I think that that's what they should have done in this game. Because the way that they did their dodging system is that when you press dodge, unless it's a perfect dodge, your character's dodge is more of a I'm running away or I'm going towards something else type of dodge versus a I'm dodging an attack dodge. So it doesn't really come off as a I'm in a fight dodge unless you're doing a perfect dodge. And I'm not really a fan of that. Not only am I not a fan of that just because of the way it looks, but I think of the way it portrays the combat. It makes it look like you're out of the fight. Like the way that the perfect dodge animations are, which I also think there probably should have been multiple ones, maybe even corresponding to the type of attack that was thrown at you instead of it just being a generic dodge animation. I think that they should have flushed the dodge system out a lot more. So, I mean, it would be nice if I was a very big YouTuber and they would see my video and it would get a whole lot of likes and they would be like, oh, okay, we can patch that into the game. Because that's one good thing about video games nowadays is that if there's something that the community at large doesn't like, they can actually put it in the game at any point. So that would be nice, but I ain't nobody. But I think that if they were gonna focus the defensive options for the player on dodging, then they probably should have flushed that system out completely. And that means different dodging animations, or perfect dodge animations that correspond with the attacks that are being thrown at you, and then also different counterattacks that come with those. So you'll have situations like this where you may do 3 perfect dodges in a row, and then you do the same the same counterattack animation 3 times in a row. I don't think that's not a good move. I don't think that's a good move in literally any video game ever. You don't want to make the combat seem generic, routine, and something as simple as making the animations different make the combat seem more immersive and more enjoyable. I mean, obviously it will be the same timing on the perfect dodge. It will be the same timing on the perfect dodge counterattack. It's like, but just the different animation would flush the system out more, or at least make it feel like the system is more fleshed out and more enjoyable. I mean, when it comes to combat, in my opinion, animations are extremely important. You could have a player putting in the same inputs or similar inputs with similar or the same timing, but just because the animations are different, it would make the combat a lot more enjoyable. So I think that's something that they definitely should have worked on a little bit more when it came to the combat. And again, dodging is your only defensive option in this game. And that's another thing that I take issue with. Even if it wasn't a counter system, even if they just allowed you to block. Because what you have is a lot of enemies that are in the game, like just regular police officers in t-shirts with their sleeves rolled up, who can block your attacks, but then you can't block theirs. And then you have these regular enemies with bats who can, in the middle of your combo, block your attack and then push through what you're doing. I'm not a fan of that, personally, because when you're playing a game like this, especially like a game with comic book heroes and you're fighting like random nobodies, it's like, I feel like the combat should make you feel powerful, and this game definitely falls short of that in certain aspects when you're fighting certain enemies. Now obviously when you're fighting the big guys, you don't want to just be running right through them. I'm also, again, not talking about anything that has to do with builds. Obviously, I know, and I've seen that there are builds in this game that people have when they're one-shotting everything in the game. Obviously, you feel powerful. I'm talking strictly about the mechanics of the game. The mechanics of the fighting system should make you feel powerful. And that could be as simple as, if your opponents can block, then you should probably be able to block too. If they're like just random nobody enemies, it's not like they're boss fights. It's like if your opponents can block your special attacks, but you can't block them at all, I feel like that's an issue. Now, using dodging to kind of segue into my next issue with combat, and to be fair, I haven't played on anything but hard mode in a while now. So maybe, and I don't think I was fighting these enemies when I wasn't on hard, so maybe it isn't as bad or even really a thing on a normal mode. But on hard mode, I still don't think it should be a thing because it makes the combat, in my opinion, unfun. Is this fight right here. And this is a very common thing when you're fighting the regulators, is that you have the people with the guns, and then you have the people with the drones that let out 2 drones that shoot at you, and 1 drone that just comes at you and tries to blow up. I want you guys to look at how much I have to dodge in this fight. Now, you guys, I'm sure if you're playing on hard as well, you're well aware of this, but the fact that I have to dodge so much means that I can't fight. That's not good for your combat. Now, obviously, people have guns, people are going to shoot at me. I get that. But my issue is like I said, it takes you out of the fight. It makes you stop fighting and have to run for a while. So I may get 1 or 2 hits in, and then I gotta dodge. I gotta get 1 or 2 hits in, and I gotta dodge again. Then I get 1 or 2 hits in, and then I gotta dodge again. And then on top of that, when you're trying to get to the drone people, they run from you. They run from you. They can dodge you. I believe they can block your attacks as well. It's like, so now I'm trying to kill these drone people, but I can't kill them because they're running from me, or it's harder for me to kill them, I should say, because they're running from me. Because this encounter wasn't like ridiculously hard or anything like that. It was just ridiculously annoying because I can't actually fight. And not only can I not really fight, I can't even, like, so say they had the system the way it's set up, which would be fine if I could take down the drone people, but I can't silent take them down. I can't even ambush take them down. And again, this is something that maybe if you have a specific build, you can take them down. Like or maybe if you're playing with Robin, I haven't played with Robin, maybe you can take them down. In my opinion, unless it's the big guys, doing silent takedowns or ambush takedowns should not be tied to stats or character at all. You should be able to silent takedown or ambush takedown every single enemy in the game, regardless of who you're playing with, except for the big guys. If they want to leave that to Robin, I think that's fine. But they forced me to endure this encounter this way because I can't silent take them down. So if they're like, okay, if you actually end up fighting all of them, yeah, it's going to be annoying because everybody's going to be shooting at you. So to circumvent that, you would want to play a little bit more tactically, play silently, and take down the most annoying enemy silently if you can first, and then deal with the encounter that way, because you still can't silent take down or ambush take down the big guys. I would be 100% okay with that. But the problem is that I don't actually have the tactical option because I can't take down those enemies. I have to fight them. I have to fight all of them straight up, at least on hard mode. I think that was a bad move. I think on hard mode, the enemy should be difficult, don't get me wrong, but you should still have the ability to play the game the way you want to play. You shouldn't be taking that away from the players, and I feel like that's kind of what they did here. So when it comes to, one, my only defensive option being dodging while other regular enemies can block my super attacks, and then also when I'm fighting certain enemies, even if I'm using the right element, I'm dodging at least 70 to 80% of the fight. It kind of makes the combat unfun to me. Now, every encounter is not like that. Like I said, I do enjoy, there are parts of the combat that I enjoy, and there are parts of the combat, or parts when I'm playing the game where the only way I could really explain is that when the combat works, it works. It feels good. It feels great, actually. Like, getting the perfect timed attacks with Nightwing and Red Hood work well. But the problem is that when you're fighting a group of enemies and you don't even have the time to get those things through, then yeah, the combat becomes a little bit unfun. Not only because I can't get those things through, but because I'm constantly being forced out of the combat because I have to dodge bullets or I have to dodge attacks that I can't perfect dodge. I'm not really sure why they made it so every attack in the game wasn't perfect dodgeable, but in my opinion, every single attack should be perfect dodgeable in the combat of this game. If you wanna base your defensive options on dodging, then you have to flush that dodging system out in a way that keeps players in the combat and keeps the combat engaging. Because if some of that dodging is seemingly taking your player out of the combat, it makes the combat seem slower. It makes the combat not as engaging. Also, like I said, that deals with animations. Animation-wise, there should be more variety. I know it seems simple. It's the same timing, the same button inputs, but just different animations, in my opinion anyway. And you guys let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Will make the combat seem a lot more interesting because your character's doing different things. Like I did a combo with Nightwing that I've never done before, and I've never been able to do it again. And I have no idea how I did it. I'm trying to figure out how I did it. But like I was in the middle of a combo and I was hitting them with the eskrima sticks, and then like I did like this break dance thing and I kicked like everybody in the area, and it wasn't like my super attack. I have no idea how I did it. I'm trying to figure out how to do it again because it was cool, but it's like just that different animation to the same stuff that I was doing before made it seem funner and it was more interesting. So that's kind of my breakdown of the combat, what I think the issues are and how they could fix it. Basically, I wish that there was a counter system in the game, but if you're not going to put an actual counter system in the game, you have to flush out the dodging system because that's my only option. I shouldn't be doing the same counter dodge attack animations every single time, no matter what attack is thrown at me. It's not a good move. Obviously, there's not a locking system in this game, and the locking system maybe wouldn't have worked very well in this game. I mean, this wouldn't be the first game to not do a counter system. I mean, a locking system that was open world. Ghost of Tsushima did the same thing, but Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion, actually made it so you're excuse me. Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion anyway, made it a point to make sure that your character, for the most part, always was looking at the enemy that they were fighting, and they also dodged accordingly a lot of times to the attacks that were thrown at them. Now, this wasn't always the case, don't get me wrong. Ghost of Tsushima did not perfect that particular system. There were a lot of times when my character would dodge and completely look the other direction, like they weren't in the middle of a fight with somebody. So don't get me wrong, the Ghost of Tsushima system wasn't perfect either, but it doesn't really seem like they went the route in this game of making your character actually lock onto somebody, even passively. So in Ghost of Tsushima, there was more of a passive lock-on system. If you were fighting somebody, Jin Sakai would look at the person, and the way that they moved would correspond with that person. They would be looking at them the whole time, for the most part anyway. In this game, they actually didn't do a passive locking system unless you're actually attacking a person, which is not uncommon for games like this, but I would say that they definitely should have done a passive locking system in this game. But that's just my thoughts on the combat in the game. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree that for the most part, the thing that drags this game down the most is probably the combat? And what exactly would you do to change the combat and make it better? Or do you just like the combat the way it is? Do you agree with my assessment of things? But that's all I really have for this video. I'm going to do another video where I go into some spoilers and why I don't really think that either Rocksteady or WB will be able to expand their universe in a way that at least I would like. But that's another video for another day. So that's all I have for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one. Indeed.